If I had a Nissan 240SX, it'd be a red coupe. Wait, a silver fastback. And I'd go for a spin up Route 7. The twisty one. Just me and Astro. No, Amy. Heck, Christy Brinkley. Wow! Yeah, me and Christy in my silver, no, red 240SX. Driving into the sunset.
What comes to your mind first when Silvia is mentioned? It's not that hard. Come on. Yes, drifting. We will not examine the garbage cans produced in the beginning. Our topic is about S13, S14, and S15. So, in conclusion, we need to examine what this drift machine is about. If you are ready, let's give the intro. The S13 Silvia Coupe was made from 1988 to 1994, overlapping with the S14 Silvia introduced in 1993. Upon its introduction, it won the 1988 Car of the Year Japan Award. The Nissan Silvia used fixed headlights, whereas the 180SX was simply a hatchback version of the Silvia, introduced at the same time used pop-up headlights. The hatchback version, called the 180SX, replaced the Gazelle name in Japan and stayed in production until 1998. The S13 was one of the first uses of Nissan's multi-link rear suspension, the technology of which was previewed in concept cars in previous years, such as the Nissan Mid 4. It also offered a four-wheel steering system for the first time, known as carsexplainedd. In 1990, HiCas 2 was updated and renamed Super HiCas. The S13 also saw the introduction of a viscous-type limited slip differential for some models. S13 Silvias were initially powered by the CA18DE and CA18DET engines carried over from the end of S12 production, with an intercooler added to the CA18DET for a slight increase in stability and power. In mid-1990, the SR20DE and SR20DET engines debuted, offering improvements across the board in power and torque due to increased displacement and a more efficient turbocharger than was offered on the previous cars. In 1998, the S13 Silvia was resurrected, in part with a variant produced by Kid's Heart for Nissan called the Sil80, which featured the 180SX body with the front end of the Silvia. The Sil80 was originally created by Japanese enthusiasts for their own 180SX and is still a common modification for both the 180SX and 240SX fastback. The Sil80 made an appearance in the initial D Japanese anime and manga series, which featured the Sil80 in one of the first battles in the manga and one of the last battles in First Stage. The S13 Silvia was the first S-Series car to use the J's, Q's, and K's designations for the different trim packages. These names are references to the face cards of English playing cards. The J's was the base model. The Q's model offered a slightly more refined experience and received electric options and an available LSD. The K's grade received the turbocharged CA18DET or SR20DET, depending on the year of manufacture. On top of the K's and Q's models, the Club and Diamond selection packages came with specific options bundled together. For example, all K's Club selections came with projector headlamps, a rear spoiler, and 15 inches aluminum wheels, while all Q's models came out with automatic climate control. Late in the S13 Silvia's production, a new base model trim known as the A's trim was introduced in late 1992 to replace the previous J's base model trim, and according to some sources, had a limited manufacturing run of fewer than 150. Trim-wise, the Ace offered options not available on the J's, such as the 15-inch alloy wheels, but also not including all the standard features of the Q's like power windows and sunroof. The only available powertrain was the naturally aspirated SR20DE with a 5-speed manual transmission, the same as on the Q's. The S14 Silvia debuted in Japan towards the end of 1993. It was lower and wider than the S13. New rounded styling contributed to the illusion of a greater increase in size than actually occurred. Wheelbase and track were both increased, leading to slightly improved handling. Unlike export markets, where sales of the S14 chassis variants faltered, the Silvia remained popular in Japan. However, the width dimension exceeded 1,700 mm, which pushed this generation out of the compact class tax bracket and made Japanese buyers liable for higher road taxes. Sales of the S14 also faltered because specialty car buyers at the time were moving to RVs and SUVs. The fastback and convertible body styles were discontinued internationally, leaving only the coupe in production. Trim level designations were similar to the S13, however, the club selection package was dropped. Aero variants of the Qs and Ks were offered that featured large rear wings and mild ground effects. The S14 Silvia Ks received a new version of the SR20 DET, with a slight bump in power due to the implementation of Nissan's variable cam timing system, known as NVCT, on the intake cam, and a larger T28 turbocharger. There was a mild styling update to the S14 during 1996, which added aggressive-looking projector headlamps and tinted taillights to all models. The older version is known as the Zenki. Fascias and other exterior trim pieces were also revised. The turbocharger now used a more efficient ball bearing center section. This updated version is also known as the Kuki S14, or by enthusiasts as the S14A. It was sold as the second generation 240 SX in North America from 1995 to 1998, equipped with the non-turbo KA24DE engine. The final model year of S14 production in all markets was 1999, called the Touring model, which had a better engine block, pistons, and better acceleration in lower gears. The 270R was a limited edition vehicle developed by Nissan Motorsports, produced only in 1994. The vehicle was built on the S14 chassis but had many enhancements over the Silvia. The E270 is in reference to the horsepower of the unique car, as opposed to the displacement of the engine. The 270R featured a vented hood with a front-mounted intercooler, Nismo Edge Aero kit, heavy-duty clutch, two-way limited slip differential, Nismo logo front and rear seats among other upgrades. All the 270S were painted black with Nismo 270R badging above the rear wheels and a product-numbered plaque in the glove compartment. Only 30 270Rs were ever built. In 1999, Japan saw a new version of the Silvia, the S15. This generation of the Silvia was only sold new in Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. In Australia and New Zealand, the car was sold as the Nissan 200SX. Silvia, now boasting 250 horsepower and 275 Nm of torque from its SR20 DET inline-4 engine, thanks to a ball-bearing turbocharger upgrade, as well as improved engine management system. The non-turbo SR20DE produced 165 horsepower. The S15 Silvia included aggressive styling inside and out, updating the previous Silvia styling inline with modern car design trends. The body dimensions were reduced from the previous generation so that it would comply with the Japanese government compact class, which had an effect on sales of the previous model. The S15 Silvia model lineup was initially simplified to just Spec S and Spec R, with both models offering an aero variant with a large rear wing, side skirts, valances, and front bumper. The Spec R was fitted with a turbocharged SR20 DET engine and differed from previous Silvia models by featuring a 6-speed manual gearbox, as well as a 4-speed automatic transmission, while the Spec S was fitted with a naturally aspirated SR20D engine and featured a 5-speed manual transmission. The Spec R also included extensive chassis and suspension strengthening via the use of larger anti-roll bars and strut bracing. The Spec R featured the same 4-piston front brake calipers that were found in the Z32300ZX, but included a larger brake booster. One of the biggest changes to the Spec R model of the Silvia, fitted with the 6-speed manual transmission built by Aisin Seiki, was the implementation of a helical limited slip differential. The result was a safer, more track-suited drive, in some contrast to its drifting heritage and subsequent media attention. All other versions of the Silvia came with the viscous limited slip differential. Meanwhile, Spec S lacked the additional chassis support of the Spec R, featured 4-piston front brake calipers and a slightly smaller brake booster. The Spec S came only with an open differential with an optional LSD. Australian-delivered Spec S models featured the same helical differential, chassis bracing, and 6-speed manual transmission as the Australian market Spec R models. The S15 line was later expanded to include various luxury and upgrade option packages for both the Spec S and Spec R. Autech, a specialty car developer, also offered several tuned versions of the S15. One with body and interior trim modeled after the Ferrari 456, called the Style A, available in both Spec S and Spec R base trims. And a second tuned version was based on the Spec S trim level, with the engine output increased to 200 horsepower through the use of increased compression, more aggressive camshafts, and free-breathing intake and exhaust tracts, along with ECU tuning and upgrades to the chassis and suspension. This version also included the 6-speed transmission and other upgrades normally found only in the Spec R. Production of the Silvia ended amidst Nissan's efforts to reduce its myriad of platforms. Nissan stopped producing the S platform as of August 2002, with the S15 series Nissan Silvia being the final variant. The S15 Silvia was therefore the last car to use the Silvia name, as well as the last sports car by Nissan to use a true front-engine, rear-wheel drive layout.